It was getting pretty late that Tuesday night. It had been a fairly quiet shift at Wobbly Pizza. That's me in the back. William Wobbles, though everybody calls me Billy. Just an average Joe trying to make my way in the world. Right before closing, my manager, Pete, came up. Told me we had one last delivery that needed to be made. I tried to argue that it was too late, but he wouldn't hear anything about it. So I just sighed and said, "Yes, sir. What can you do?" I needed the money. Once the pizzas were done, I grabbed the boxes and headed out to the truck. The address was new to me. I'd never heard of it. Somewhere out in the woods past Old Man Nelson's farm. It was gonna be a late night. About 20 minutes later, somewhere out on a dark country road that I'd never been on before, the truck started to act up. I had told Pete about this weeks ago, that he had to get this thing fixed. But did he listen? No, of course not. I muttered and called him every name I could think of under my breath. And there, out on some road I didn't know, the truck sputtered and crawled to a stop. I didn't know what to do. The truck wouldn't start, and there was no cell service. So, I did what I had to. I left the truck and started walking. And as the ground crunched beneath my feet, a chill ran down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that somebody was watching me. The more I tried not to think about it, the more I couldn't stop. Everything just sounded louder and looked darker than it should. I started to really freak myself out, so I came to a stop. Unfortunately, the sound of footsteps didn't. They continued on for a second, and then stopped suddenly. And that's when I knew. That feeling of being watched, it wasn't just a feeling. Somebody else was out there with me. I scanned the tree line wildly, trying to discern any movement, anything that would show me what was out there. And then I saw it, right behind the tree. The glint of moonlight reflecting off the blade of the axe. I stood there paralyzed, not knowing what to do, my brain screaming, "Run! Run!" So that's what I did. I ran. I didn't dare look back, but I didn't have to, because I could hear those other footsteps right behind me, and it sounded like they were getting closer. And right then, when I thought all hope was lost, I burst into a clearing, and there, before me, stood a mansion. And I ran up to that door and I pounded on it. And after what seemed like an eternity, the door opened, and there was a little old lady there, and I pushed my way past her, explaining, "There's somebody out there! Please help me!" I slammed the door shut and turned around, and she seemed oddly calm, and she just looked at me and said, "Don't worry. It'll all be okay. It doesn't hurt at all." And as I stared at her, aghast, she simply stopped being there. And then, as if on cue, the doorknob started to jiggle. I ran to the window and looked out, and that's when I saw it. An axe-wielding maniac with a jack-o'-lantern mask. I quickly ran up the stairs, looking desperately for any place to escape to. I heard the shattering glass behind me. Where should I hide? Dresser? Bed? Dresser? Bed? I quickly dove under the bed and waited. The door creaked open. And then he was there. And I knew it was all over for me. I closed my eyes. A crash filled the room, and the sounds of a scuffle. I opened my eyes and saw the axe lying just out of reach. I quickly looked to the other side and saw the maniac unconscious on the floor. And then I heard a voice say, "It's okay. You can come out now. You're safe." The detective walked me outside to his patrol car, and I told him frantically what had happened. He explained to me that my boss had gotten worried when it got later and later. He had called the number for the delivery, and it was disconnected. Fearing the worst, he had alerted the police, who knew that no such address existed. They had sent Detective Buck out to check it out. Back at the station, I filled out the paperwork. One thing still bothered me, though. What about the old lady? Buck looked at me, puzzled. "Nobody lives in that house," he said. "It's been abandoned for years." As I walked out into the cool night air, I wondered, who was she, and what did it mean?